This written assignment is a little different than some of the other assignments that we've done so far. To start, you're going to figure out your potential income for your current major. To do that, you'll go to the MCC website and up here in the search bar, type your major. It doesn't necessarily have to be your final destination, just your associate's degree that you get at MCC. It could be your bachelor's or even your graduate degree. In the search bar, type your major. So you can pick whatever your major is. I'm going to put it here in the search bar, and I will choose psychology. Then you'll get a lot of search results, but the one you're looking for is the one that says programs and degrees. I'm going to click on that. Then as you find your field of study web page, scroll down to find the career opportunities. And then what we're going to try and find is our future salary. So here we are in our Associate of Arts, emphasis in psychology. I'm going to scroll down until I see career opportunities. Then in this list of career opportunities, pick the one that most closely represents your major. For example, maybe I want to be a mental health counselor. You'll see this starts at $35,000, goes up to $90,000. The value that I want to pull is the median wage. So that will be question 1. My future profession is a counselor, and the median wage was $59,488. The MCC website has a lot of majors. If you have one that's a little more specialized, you can try this other link right here that takes you out to a more general database to get a salary. So I've filled in my career path and my annual salary. Then I'm going to compare it to the median salary for a person with a high school diploma. And to compare it, I'm just going to find the difference. So $59,488 minus $41,800. Then this second part of the question says to find the difference over the course of a 40-year career. Now, for this problem, we're just going to assume that your salary stays the same, but we know that's not true. Salaries go up. So for 40 years, if I stayed at $59,488, I would just multiply that by 40. Then I'd also do the $41,800, multiply that by 40. Then whatever the difference is, that's our answer. The next part of this homework is to create a budget. Now we're going to use the monthly income that's on the previous page. So in this case, it would be the $59,488 divided by 12. That's the value that goes in here. Then we're going to create a budget following these steps. Determine our monthly income, which we did. Find the average monthly expenses, and then determine our cash flow by subtracting all the expenses from our income. And then in the real world, we would make adjustments and then create a budget for the next month. So now I'll have my monthly income, and then here is where you are going to list all of the expenses for the month. So there's several ways to approach this. If you are in charge of the bills at your home, you could just go ahead and list them there. List all the expenses in this second column here. If you are not the person in charge of all the bills, then you want to interview the person at your home who is in charge of all the bills. And if that's a parent or a spouse, then work together with them to fill this out. If you currently live with roommates, you would just include all their portions. So let's say you have 2 roommates, everyone pays $500. So you have 2 people paying $500 plus you pay $500, that's $1,500. You would write down rent is $1,500. And maybe you split the electricity bill. Put down the entire amount. Now, one word of caution is that talking about money is a very, very sensitive subject for most people. So if you're interviewing someone and they are uncomfortable talking about it, do not pressure them. Just say, okay, that's fine. And then go to a second source. So if you have a trusted friend, or maybe your significant other, or maybe a grandparent or an extended family member, and say, hey, can I ask you some questions about living expenses on a monthly basis? Just be very kind. This assignment is really just for us to learn what it costs to live for a month, all those expenses tied to a home. The paragraph up here gives you some ideas. So water, gas, sewer, electricity, car expenses, HOA, and on and on and on. Then the next one is other things to consider. Clothing, eating out, our subscriptions. These are not exhaustive. So whatever else money gets spent on in the month, go ahead and put those on here. Then when you get here, you'll add up all the expenses, and then I'll subtract my monthly salary minus all those expenses. Sometimes this will be negative, and that's because we're basing your income on the expenses of somebody else's house. So if it's negative, it's okay. That's just how it is. It's one of those things that happens in this assignment. Then you'll just have a question or two to answer for this assignment.